Oh, there's Harry.
Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to another day here at Bronie's desk. I thought I would be doing this on the road today, but I got home in time. Anyway, it's the first Tuesday of March 2026, and here in Australia we have gone into autumn, but my guest will be going into spring. Anyway, so I've forgotten what the topic is about today, actually. I don't think we fully decided, but anyway, joyful, whatever
Well,
Lisa
it's
brings.
always a joy, but we are going to talk about the oil of joy.
The oil of joy. I knew it had joy in it, but because
Olive
I had other
oil.
things on my mind with my auntie passing
Olive
and
oil.
everything, I just didn't didn't register quick enough, and that's bad on me. So anyway, my friends, because there's only a few of us here today, and a few of they will catch the recording, I'm leaving everyone open today. So today, my special guest is the beautiful retired pharmacist, Lisa Hamil, all the way from the USA. And she's going to, as she said, share with us the oil of joy. All right. So without
Yes.
further ado, I'll hand it over to you, Lisa.
Oh, well, thank you. By the way, I don't know if you're interested. I have a number of trainings on my two websites.
Mm.
Most of the trainings have nothing to do with what we're talking about here, but one of my websites is
Yeah.
longevitypoweredhealth.com, and the other one is creating your joy, which in my mind involves dance, music, funny jokes. And when I moved to Santa Cruz, I was so excited. I can't believe it's been over 20 years. And it's just gone by so quickly because I'm often traveling. But one of the first things I did when I moved here was write a song about Santa Cruz. Do you have a song about your town that you live in, by the way?
Actually, I
Have you
think
ever heard a
there
song
are
about
songs
Santa
that have
Cruz?
been
I
written, but I
haven't.
couldn't tell you them. I have
Yeah.
heard people write songs about our town.
Okay.
Billy,
Well,
our valley, our actual valley.
yeah. Well, it's kind of fun. Songwriting has always been a way for me to remember things that were difficult to remember. If I could take a concept and write a song about it, it was a lot easier to remember if you can imagine that. But it turns out that I got married in December, which was just before Christmas, right? It's a couple of weeks before Christmas. So the name of my song is called Santa's Coming to Santa Cruz. And you better not pout and you better not cry. And I'll tell you why. So it kind of goes on like that. But it's on my website. And then there's another one there about going to the doctor. You know, have you ever gone to the doctor and he's supposed to diagnose and figure out what's wrong with you? But the name of this song is it's called The Physician, and it's about a woman that fell in love with her doctor, and that's why she was so sick all the time because she had to go see her doctor. I mean, you can't
I
believe what people
actually, I
think.
actually know people that do exactly that. They're so in love with their doctor.
Yeah.
Usually they're married or whatever, but they just love them so much that they find a reason to go visit.
So they find a way to get sick, right? So they have to go see their doctor or make an appointment. Well, people do funny things under funny circumstances. And so I like funny songs, and that was one of them. And I mean, there's a whole bunch of other ones that are really kind of crazy. Oh, the
Oh, I
craziest
do.
one.
And listen,
What?
while talking about songs,
Yeah.
actually, I do remember our two local primary schools, one of which I went to primary school.
Hmm.
Because they're both tiny schools, and
Mm.
they came together and made this incredible song for a festival that, for young people to creative songs about where they live. And it's
Okay.
absolutely, I've actually shared it on my Facebook page, and they actually won first prize.
All right.
And
Well,
it really is beautiful. And it's about our little village, our two villages, like our farming district, because we're in a farming district.
yeah.
And it's if you go, it's probably
Is it on
June
YouTube
last
or what?
year.
Is it
Well,
on
I think it's
YouTube?
on YouTube, but I shared it on my Facebook page twice when they first entered the competition and
Oh,
then when they won it. So I'll have to find it again and share it again after today's
yeah.
talk. But
Well,
it was lovely.
I don't know if you've heard of the songwriter Cole Porter. Cole Porter wrote a lot of songs in the 20s, 30s, and 40s.
Mm.
And I know it's been a while. One of their songs was done by Grace Kelly and Frank Sinatra and Bing Crosby in the movie called True Love.
Oh
That was
yes.
one of the songs. It was a very fun romantic comedy type thing. But his father was a pharmacist. And I didn't realize that until way late in my career, even though I'd been singing his songs all along, because one of his famous songs is Night and Day. And what I did was I put together a musical comedy on the day in the life of a pharmacist.
Yeah.
And um, since his father was a pharmacist, his father wanted him to be a pharmacist. But he wasn't that charged up about that, decided to go to law school. After all that training, he decided he didn't really want to be a lawyer either, but he learned how to use words extremely proficiently. And in those days, lawyers got paid by the word. That's why we have all these laws and legal documents that are thousands of words long and pages long and all that kind of thing. So in the process, he wrote all these songs about what it's like to be a pharmacist. And his agent said, these songs are never going to sell because nobody knows about pharmacists and they don't really care. So then he converted them all to love songs. And I used to be a drug rep, right? Selling drugs. And one of the songs he wrote was Love for Sale. But when I did my Day in the Life of a Pharmacy show, which was done for an installation dinner for pharmacists and their wives, the words became drugs for sale, not loves for sale.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's one of his other famous songs is it's delightful, it's delicious, it's lovely, getting to know this new
Yeah.
person. And so I changed the words to it's the cramping, it's the fever, it's the flu. That's what this pharmacist told the patient when she came in with all these symptoms and she was trying to figure out what to do. But anyway, it's on my website if you want to watch it. It's a 3-stage, 9-minute thing. When I had to put on YouTube, the limit on YouTube was not 9 minutes. But anyway, songs are interesting and they serve a valuable purpose of basically creating your joy. You find people and things that you really enjoy. People write poetry or songs and are inspired with music. So anyway, we are here to talk about the oil of joy. And I call it the oil of joy mostly because it has such a huge application throughout our entire body. And one of the simplest, most obvious applications of olive oil, it's full of polyphenols, which makes it a very strong antioxidant, which helps prevent aging. And one of its best applications actually is on the skin. If you ever have dry skin or issues with your skin or even an infection, just massaging that oil on your skin not only keeps the skin supple and it has antibacterial effects and prevents the chapping and is great even for the hair. Just rub it on like you do hand lotion. The main reason I say that is because it's such a powerful lubricant and softening agent to nourish the skin without any of the preservatives and things that are normally put in cosmetics. So it has a lot to offer just using it topically. But keeping that in mind, it's also very powerful in keeping the gastrointestinal tract smoothly polished and well lubricated and reinforced protecting the microbiome, all those organisms that we have in our gut. It helps prevent constipation. It smooths the entire lining of the gastrointestinal tract. And then it gets into the bloodstream and helps actually lower cholesterol and all those problems that we talk about with lipids. And I know you're saying that Dr. Wallach does not encourage oils in general. And it's best and most important to use the extra virgin fresh pressed olive oil. And
Or as he, as Doc Wallach would say, if you're growing the olives and you take the olive and you squeeze it, that's when it's
yes,
best for you. The reason he doesn't like oils in particular is because they go rancid. You don't know how long
absolutely.
they have been in the containers, how they've been
Absolutely.
processed.
Right,
Cold
right, right.
pressed is the best way,
Yeah.
and then they cause cancer. So, and obviously not oils are the same. Oils ain't just oils.
I know. It's really sad in a way because even if we buy nuts, all the oils in those nuts can turn rancid as well and
Mm,
set you up for cancer. And nuts are considered a very, they're almost like a vegetable type of thing. They're a fruit of the tree. Walnuts are really good with all the oils for your brain health. Our body actually makes melatonin to help us sleep from walnuts.
yeah. Well, see,
Which,
the walnuts are shaped like a brain. You take them out of
that's
the shell,
right. They are.
and they look, yeah, they help the brain.
Just like even pecans. Pecans are another version. So nuts have a lot to offer, and ideally, yes, you definitely want to have that oil as fresh as possible so that it is not rancid. And I never cook with it, but some people say you can cook with it, but not heavy duty frying. All those oils that are used for French fries, probably the deadliest food we could probably ever eat is French fries,
Yeah,
if you can imagine.
yeah.
So, in that regard, we're talking about brain health. It's one of the oils, and our brain is a very high percentage of of fat content in our brain.
Mm.
That's why when people are really difficult to deal with, they call them a fathead because they don't process very friendly information a lot of times because they think they know everything and they have a little aspect of arrogance or something like that. Anyway,
Those
not
who
not
think
to
they know everything actually know very little.
well, unfortunately, yes. The thing is, it's not easy to know a whole lot because there's so much to know. We've discovered so many things and there's so much out there to learn.
Well,
But
as
that's what
I
makes
say to, and you would get this, Lisa. As I say to people, people say, "Oh, you're perfect. You know everything." I said, "Well, no, actually, I don't. I'm not perfect. I don't know everything. I'm not God." So, and that's why this is why I have this show every week, is to help people learn, because gee whiz, I learn something new every week. And this pharmacist Ben and yourself or something, you should know this. And I'm going, well, sometimes I need reminding, and I can't store everything up there.
Well, to me, it's very fascinating to learn something every day. It's sort of like we want to eat fresh fruit every day and fresh information. And there's a lot of applications for what we have right under our fingertips, to keep us healthy. And in general, the simpler the better,
Mm.
because if you have a lot of added products to a food item, then your body has to deal with it. And usually those items are so toxic that even the bugs won't eat it, type of thing. It's so well preserved. And as we talked about with dead food and stuff like that, it's just not that wonderful. However, keeping our brain loaded with enough fat, if we don't have enough of the right fat in our brain, it won't it will not operate properly either. And that's why fatty fish, salmon are so good for our cognitive abilities as we grow older. And why sugar can be, sugar is kind of a preservative, and yet the brain needs glucose to think. That's the
Mm.
way it burns energy, and it has to have that. So it's kind of an interesting organ, so to speak. It sounded like your aunt that you were just talking about. She was a very sharp older woman, right? And
Yes.
it's really sad to see the people become incapacitated either because mobility is limited due to sarcopenia and their muscles aren't working that well, or brain function. I've never really had a lot to do with I don't know of any family member that's had brain difficulties, with dementia and that type of thing. But that's a really difficult thing to put up with. And when you have people in the family that can't remember who you are, it's really sad to see that. And ideally,
Have
we can
another
prevent
auntie
that
like that.
by having, a good
Mm.
diet. And olive oil has that capability of keeping your brain sharp longer into your older years so that you're not a burden to others and you can enjoy life a lot better. Okay, so I talked about the lubrication on the skin and the hair and lubricating the digestive tract. It's excellent for the liver to make the right type of, you know, high density and low density fatty elements that the body uses in its process of going from fat storage. We don't want fatty liver, but the liver has the ability of converting glucose into fat and then taking fat and making it into glucogens or glucose so that it can boost blood sugar levels and you're not getting hypoglycemia. So it just enhances liver function a lot better than other fats.
Mm.
And then once it gets into the bloodstream, we talked about the cholesterol levels. It also helps smooth and soothe the inner lining of all the blood vessels. We've talked about circulation in the past and how important it is to have all the nutrients that we ingest and that we use with our longevity products. We need to have the circulation take those vital vitamins and fatty acids and
Mineral.
minerals to their end organ location through the bloodstream, and the olive oil keeps the blood vessels permeable because you want to be able to have the nutrients go through the blood vessel wall into the organ that it's serving. You
Mm.
don't want it to be bogged down by hardening of the arteries. It helps prevent that hardening of the artery inside the blood vessel. And that's a really valuable advantage of something like olive oil because it's different than any other fat in terms of its ability that way. Butter is also healthy butter. How does he feel about grass-fed butter?
Yes, butter is his number one. Butter and
Butter.
ghee. Yep,
Yeah,
butter
butter
and
and ghee.
ghee.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. Well, of course. So then on top of that, olive oil really
Good, and that's
contributes.
that's that's pure butter. That's not these fake butters.
Right, absolutely no margarine. That is
That
like,
butter should only have two, maybe three ingredients: the cream or milk, because it's
okay.
taking milk, salt, and possibly water.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
but mostly just the two. I know there's some here have water, and it's more to help to make it more spreadable. But if it's got any more than those, it's don't get it, don't buy it.
Trouble.
My husband
Yeah.
picked up the wrong one the other day, and I said, "Do you mean to pick this up?" And he had all this other stuff because it's the same container as the one we normally get. That's just got the cream and the salt. And he goes, "No, I didn't," and threw it out.
Oh,
Didn't even open it, just threw it out. He said, "No, that's gone." Yes. So you
were you,
really got to watch, and you really got to, but he was in a rush and he just picked up what he thought was the one because
you're right.
it's the same coloring and everything and very similar looking packaging. And I remember when being a dairy farmer's daughter, we actually used to make our own butter.
That's a perfect point. Did you put yellow food coloring in your butter or did you eat it
No,
white?
no, we just made it, and it was just the cream of the milk because we had Guernseys and they make perfect butter and add a bit of salt. Sometimes mum didn't even add salt, but
So how yellow was it? Or was
uh,
it very yellow, just kind of creamy colored?
It's creamy coloured. Oh, well, it goes a little bit yellow when you've made it, but no, you don't add anything. You don't add
Yeah, right.
food
Do you
colouring.
remember? Do you
It's
remember when they
real
came out
yellow
with
when you make
with?
homemade from Jersey and Guernsey cows.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Real
it does.
buttercup yellow.
Yes, so that's yeah, it is buttercup yellow.
Yes. We always made our own butter when we had a cow.
yeah.
See, Yvonne knows.
Good for
Mm,
you. I'm
yeah.
jealous.
Yeah.
I've never
Well,
had homemade butter.
I make my tomato sauce and I bottle my own fruit and everything. So
Oh,
yeah.
beautiful. So,
So
do
I,
you remember when they came out with margarine?
yes.
Oh, why would you
Was that
use
like
that?
that was in the late 50s, I think, or something like that, or maybe 60s?
Oh, well, in the 60s, I remember more, but, because I was only born in 59, but why? It's got stuff in there that you use for petrol. It's got petrol in it.
Well, what
Yeah.
about canola oil?
No, don't use
And
that.
of course, there was this huge national worldwide campaign to lower fat in your diet. So, what do they come up with? This artificial contraption and combination called margarine.
Mm,
One of the worst things they ever did.
yes.
Yeah, and so we've had so many complications come out of the fact that stay away from fat. And yet fat was one of the most energizing, brain protective, and nutritious thing we could give our body in terms of cholesterol levels.
Now, there's good fat and bad fat in saying that.
There is good
But
fat
that's
and
the
bad
same.
fat.
That's the same with everything. There's good and there's bad in it. I
And you
struggle.
want to have the right balance and everything, but there's nothing that says you should have chemicalized fat, which
No,
is what margarine was. I
did
mean,
God make camelized fat?
it was so
No.
artificial, it was disgusting. And it didn't even taste that good. And it was almost a sacrifice to give up that buttery flavor, that you could pour over your popcorn or something like that. And now they have salts that are butter flavored salts. You could salt your popcorn with butter flavored flavoring. And that's so terribly artificial. It's awful to,
Well, I'm glad I've not heard of that.
oh gosh. Well, yeah, I'm glad for you because it's amazing how these campaigns have arisen. And now that we're closely looking at our food supply and seeing how many deleterious items are on the market, especially with the phenomenal industry that food production has had. If you look at all the items in the grocery store, you only really need the periphery. All the middle stuff is processed and highly non nutritional, but is convenient.
Mm.
And the trade-off is really unfortunate. It's almost suicidal, basically.
Well, it is.
Anyway, yeah, and then I think one of the best ways that these artificially produced food substances have gained a market share is to down regulate the value of real food, because of course there's always a problem with insecticides, the impact of insecticides, and whether you want to prepare your food quickly before it spoils, because if you don't use it appropriately, it won't last very long in your refrigerator. But if you can eat it fresh, that's the best type of food you can have.
Mm.
So they were trying to sell us on convenience instead of nutrition, and we're discovering that there's a big consequence to that. So we talked about the immune system. It actually helps boost the immune system to work a lot better and fight any kind of infection, whether it's a viral infection or a bacterial infection that might attack the body on some level, because it promotes the healthy production of antibodies to infections in general. It's just a natural property of olive oil. And then eye health. Can you imagine having a visual issue going on
Well, I
because
do
you're
have a visual issue. I was born with a visual issue.
yeah, okay, so when you're born with it, that's an added bonus for you to make sure that you have good vitamins, and nutrition and health care for your eye. You want to get good sleep. You don't want to get too much ultraviolet exposure that breaks down all the the structure of your retina, and you want to make sure that you have plenty of antioxidants and astaxanthin and whatever, vitamin A has to offer. But olive oil does fortify the eye because of its polyphenols and its immune capabilities, because some of the worst issues regarding the eye are related to inflammation, not to mention the way we're using computers these days. We're in front of a computer for so many hours of every day, and especially before you go to bed, it can interfere with your sleep quality because you're not allowing your eyes to rest enough prior to bedtime.
If it's your phone.
Well, the phone is a whole nother story because people sleep with it and it's the first thing they see before they go to bed. And as soon as they wake up, it's like, and that's really hard on the eye, especially in relation to allowing you to go to sleep. If you've had a lot of screen exposure before bedtime, it turns off your melatonin production, and you need to have that production in order for your body to naturally fall asleep. How's that?
Yeah.
And as I think we spoke earlier and in a previous session, that the nervous tissue in the back of the eye, the retina, and the brain tissue are very closely related. It's the nervous tissue that's not like the nervous tissue at the end of your finger. Your eye has a phenomenal capability of just telling you everything that's going on in your environment. If you can't see, you have very little information being sent to the brain, so the brain can make decisions on where you're going to walk, where you're going to go, what do you see, where's the danger, is there a lion hiding in the bushes somewhere, is there a car coming? All those things, are related to your eye communicating flawlessly with your brain to warn you about what you want to do, as well as help you go to sleep in the production of melatonin. We have to make melatonin or we're not going to have good circadian rhythm of sleeping. Isn't that amazing?
Yes.
And of course, because of its impact on blood lipids and the bloodstream, it makes a person far less likely to suffer the consequences of a stroke, where you have circulation impairment to different parts of the brain that allows you to basically veg out. Because if you block circulation for a significant period of time to certain parts of your brain, you can become paralyzed, you can become immobilized and basically disabled until all that stuff is cleared away out of your brain and you've got the clear circulation that your brain needs to cognitively interact with your environment. Isn't that amazing?
Yes.
And okay, now, so it does have the ability to prevent strokes and keeping the endothelium. That's probably one of the most vital things. You look at your hands and when you get chapped and overused, it's a problem and you're more susceptible to infections. If you don't take good care of the skin on your hands that you're interacting with the world, you end up being more prone to infections, not to mention soreness and inflammation. Well, your blood vessel is the same type of thing. The endothelium is subject to all kinds of things, even weird chemicals like fragments of plastic now they're talking about. Have you heard that about that? As far as our environment is so overloaded with plastic substances that we're becoming
even in the water.
Plasticated, yeah, in the water. And they're claiming we even breathe it in our air because we have all this plastic furniture and carpeting and whatever, and it's all micro-sized, but it does accumulate in the bloodstream, and olive oil has the ability to smooth that layer up so that it's not as subject to a lot of these irritants that are floating around in the blood. Unfortunately, our blood is not as pure as we'd like it to be because of leaky gut, for instance. And things are sneaking in from the digestive system into the bloodstream because the gut has become leaky. And it looks like Harry wants to say something. Hi, Harry. I always welcome questions if you want to interject some of your experience on a certain level. So that's an important thing about the inner lining of our blood vessels are also smoothed and delicately preserved by the coating of olive oil on the inside. Can you believe it? Now, this is non-rancid, non-oversized or overproduced olive oil that's been protected the way Dr. Wallach talks about. So,
And don't cook with it.
yeah, don't subject it to high heat. That's the important thing. Don't cook with it. Right. Okay. Some people do cook with it at a very low temperature, but definitely don't make French fries in there with olive oil. But in general, the heat is very damaging to olive oil.
Mm.
And then because of its impact on the immune system, it tends to have a cancer protective effect. And then the last one on my list, believe it or not, is because of the improved circulation to the reproductive organs of both sides of the party, it improves sexual function. How's that? Keeping things lubricated, because there's nothing worse than trying to interact on that kind of a level with mucus lining, just like the mucus lining of your stomach and your esophagus when it becomes very irritated. And even the rawness of your hands. If you're in all kinds of dangerous chemicals for whatever reason, not wearing gloves, if you're not protecting the integrity of that lining, there's a lot of problems associated with that. So those are the main points regarding a lot of the benefits that olive oil has to offer. Now, can you think of one organ? There's several actually, but can you think of one organ that may not be benefited by this list that I've given you?
No.
What came to mind for me was the kidneys. Okay, well, the kidneys are really big on filtering water, filtering the blood, which is pretty
you
vital.
won't like oil.
Yeah, but if you have a lot of the non-therapeutic oils or the saturated fats floating around in your bloodstream, you're going to be having more problems in your kidneys, of course. And the other thing that comes to mind is the lymphatic system. And I can't overemphasize enough the value of, moving on some level with our feet and the circulation that gets pooled in the bottom of our body just because of gravity. And if we're either standing or sitting too much and not allowing the circulation and the strength of our muscles in the leg to pump the fluids back up into the circulation through the heart where it needs to go, you'll end up with swollen feet,
Yeah.
which leads to a lot of serious problems with difficulty in circulation and returning. I mean, all that fluid does not belong in the feet, and it ends up resulting in infections, and it compounds on top of itself. It's sort of like once you start pooling water in the lower extremities, it attracts more water because it becomes an increasing burden on the heart to fight gravity. And we need to help the heart and address the gravity situation by either exercising or elevating the feet. And that can be difficult. Support hose can be helpful. There's a lot of things that can be done to remedy that, but that drainage in the lymphatic system can be a serious problem if we're not moving enough.
Absolutely. And those that fly a lot or travel a lot and can't move around have that issue. Even when I'm like I did going up to Ballina for my auntie's funeral, stuff like you've got to stop if not just to go to the toilet, you stop so you can do that movement, because it's not natural to be sitting for 2
That's
hours,
right.
to more than 2 hours. I mean, it's more than 2 hours to get there, but I always stop every couple of hours.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
I notice what it does. I notice my body reacts differently if I, but sometimes when my husband's with me, he doesn't stop every 2 hours. We just keep going, and
Got to get there. When I was in sales, I would drive thousands of miles a week, covering Northern California, half of Northern California and stuff like that. And I mean, I know it sounds crazy, but I learned this from Jack LaLanne. Do you remember Jack LaLanne way back Did you ever
I've
have his
heard of that.
shows? Jack LaLanne was a really big, he's one of the first people to make a social experience of exercising together. You know, he had the program where you would do things like this and move your arms and breathe in and breathe out. You know, he had this big campaign going, and he lived well into his 90s. He probably made it to 100, maybe even a little more than 100. But one of the things he did one time was he would swim from the port in San Francisco to Alcatraz Island. He would swim carrying a piece in his mouth that was roped to a tugboat.
Oh dear.
So he was hoisting a tugboat across the San Francisco Bay to Alcatraz as part of his brilliant display of brawn, really strong, swimming, holding this thing in his mouth and pulling a tugboat with his jaw. Can you believe that? But he was just a really big exercise buff, and he always emphasized the value of moving, since way back. And he was basically the foundation of all this big exercise movement that we've seen evolve from his initial work, because he publicly displayed this vital health aspect to everyone. And he would do his exercise with basically almost dress pants. They weren't like gym shorts or gym pants. They had a crease down the middle. And I mean, he almost looked like he was going out on a date or something. And he had, a really nice shirt. It wasn't anything that was form-fitting like a lot of the
Well,
clothes
they
that we
didn't have
wear.
it then, did they?
Well, no, because it had moved in that direction. And I swear he never even sweat one drop because he was always perfectly in shape doing all these things. But he really emphasized the importance of breathing. And the reason I bring this whole thing up is my watch today, with all the Apple and electronics that we have all over the place in our lives today, my watch will tell me it's time for you to get up now. It's time for you to get up because I've been sitting too long.
Mm.
And so it says get up and stand for at least 1 minute, you know. And so when it comes to like you driving and whoever else is driving, and when I did my job, like I said, I would drive thousands of miles a week, if you can imagine. And it was nothing, for me, because I like driving, number one. But what I did learn is you can do exercises in the car when you're sitting there. You can actually isometrically squeeze all the muscles that you put your mind on. You can squeeze your toes, push them into the ground. You can squeeze your arms like this. You can flex your muscles from the knee up to your waist. You can do those AHAB. Remember I talked to you about abdominal breathing, the abdominal breathing. If you allow your abdominal wall to move out 2 or 3 inches and then pull it back in, that type of breathing helps your circulation. And if you're driving, you don't have to worry about standing up as much. But pressing your toes into the ground with your shoes on or off is helpful. And if you're not driving, of course, you can put your leg up on the dashboard. Or
Oh,
something.
no, you can't. Not here, you can't. You'll get a fine.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. That takes care of that. But there's ways that you can circulate. You can circulate your
Yeah.
ankles,
I mean,
your
if
toes
I'm
around.
not if I'm not driving, even when I am driving, if I've got it on cruise control, I can at least then um, do my ankles in a circular motion, which is
You
what
can
they
do
say you
that.
should do on a flight to help
Yeah.
to stop getting. Let's see if I can get it right. Oh, you know that.
Thromboembolic problems. If thrombosis, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, you can actually just keep your feet on the ground in the car and push your toes into your shoe. Just push it down.
Yeah.
And yes, you can circulate your heels. You can also sit there, and just do this while you're sitting. You can actually lift your calf, from. You can find ways of actually doing that, and it really improves your circulation. And of course, support helps as well. And then doing things like this, you don't
Yeah.
have to stop
I
the
do all
car.
that while I'm driving.
Yeah, okay, well,
I'm
that's
sure
what I
some people
learned to
think
do.
I'm crazy.
Basically, it was
More
a
when I'm on my
survival thing.
phone.
What was that?
More when I'm on my own. Otherwise, my husband gives me a funny look.
Oh, well, he hasn't been indoctrinated. What can I say? So he doesn't have any issues with swelling feet or circulation. Is that right? Is that what you're saying?
Well, he, well, not that he will admit. I would think from time to time, it doesn't. He never has swelling in the feet.
Does he stay pretty active with his job or does he have a desk job?
No, he no, he's a counsellor, crisis counsellor, but he's very active. He's like always in the garden when it's not raining.
Uh-huh.
So
So that
he's
helps a
pretty
lot. Yeah. The more active you are in general, the better it is for your lymphatic system, which
active.
is so easy to get behind on because we lead such a cushy life, sedentary life. We're not out there chasing horses and cows that much anymore. Or even gophers or weeding or nobody wants to wash their windows or anything. Or all the things that it takes, to keep your house clean and use a lot of extra energy because we have a cushy life for the most part. We don't have to farm as much as we used to for our food. We just go to the store.
Yeah,
Oh,
but
my
then you don't know
mother.
what you're getting, do you?
Well, that's a lot of it. I mean, my mother used to wash a lot of our clothes just in the sink instead of using washing machine, and that's a really good exercise, to be honest. And sweeping is one of the best things we can do. But it's not exactly popular, you know.
No.
But all those things really help boost circulation and allow all that olive oil to grease all of our joints and keep us moving. And that's kind of the whole point of it is we've got to keep moving and let our body circulate, oxygenate, nutritionate, all those things. So that's pretty much my summary of olive oil and the oil of joy. Oh, and the more you laugh, that does wonderful things for
Oh,
your
doesn't it?
abdominal cavities, right? When you're laughing, you've got to laugh so much that your whole body jiggles like Santa does,
Well,
Just
that's why
like
you
that.
call him
That's
a
the
jolly
type of
old
laugh.
man.
That's what you've got to do is laugh just like that.
Yeah.
That'll really fill your life with
Oh, look,
joy.
it's one of the best medicines is laughter.
Absolutely. Yeah, it does wonderful things. And the main thing it does in my mind is we think of positive things and we're in joy. And our physiology is very appreciative when we do that because it keeps everything on track. It's like smooth traffic going all over the place, and we're not being blocked by a traffic accident or a jam of some type. We've got things flowing and everything's on its sync. But the way we were programmed to be healthy in our body, but then we interrupt with depression and sadness and tears and inadequate whatever's judgments, and that's what keeps us off guard. There's a wonderful book that says the body keeps score.
Yes.
It knows and it keeps track of all the little complaints that we have and all the little dissatisfactions and inadequacies
Mm.
that really eventually adds up to make us pretty sick.
Yes, they do.
It
They do.
sneaks in there. And that's why mindset is a big deal. As a matter of fact, I just gave a presentation Saturday. It's hard to believe time flies. But it was basically on our inner pharmacy. We have an inner pharmacy with all kinds of drugs available to us, or I should say compounds that make the world go around physiologically for us. Now, we have to have good nutrition. We still have to move. We still have to get good sleep. But if our mindset is off balance, it's going to muck up the traffic of neurotransmission. It's just like our phone. If it isn't working correctly, you have to reboot it, type of thing. And one of the best ways to stay happy is to laugh. The other
Yeah.
thing that's really beneficial is the breathing, which we've talked about before. When we breathe in deeply, We oxygenate, we boost our circulation. Our body makes nitric oxide, which helps open up the blood vessels so we get good circulation. So that when we take nutrition and eat good food, it all gets delivered through our bloodstream to where it needs to go and do its job. So the
That's right.
topic of the whole presentation was our inner pharmacy, which is all the compounds, and if you can imagine, there's far more compounds in our body and hormones that make the world go round than we'll ever take as a prescription medication. But it's all in there, and we can activate it by breathing, movement, and mindset.
Oh, well, yes. And the sad thing that's, about a lot of prescription medications is it blocks the natural pharmaceutical, as you say, the compounds in our body. It stops them from doing what they should be doing
Absolutely.
and
So, for
keeping people sick.
yeah,
They think
unfortunately,
because they can't feel the symptom anymore that it's gone, but it's not. It's still there.
that's right. Because a lot of those medications, and I mean, I went through the pharmacy training. It was a little disappointing to discover that medications don't really treat for healing. They treat the blood value or the elevated blood pressure, elevated sugar levels, ever elevated cholesterol, elevated or
They treat the
missing.
symptoms, not the cause.
Yeah, they treat the lab values because you go in there and you say, well, your blood levels are at this level, but normal is over here. So we're going to treat that. But it doesn't make you well.
No.
It just treats the lab value. You know what I mean? Because you still feel dorky and terrible. And one of the reasons is because of our mindset. It's related to our capability of judging. We like to judge. I don't like this.
Mm,
I would rather have this, and this isn't good enough, instead of creating our joy.
exactly. We should, just there are a lot of things a lot of us don't like, but okay. There's a lot of nonsense going on in the world that can keep you down and steal your joy. But
Absolutely
then if you
steal it.
say, okay, on Sunday, my message for my spiritual Sunday was, that God tells us, Jesus has told us, you're in the world, but not to be of the world. So, because that's if you become of the world, you're serving the devil. But if you're in the world and helping others and, finding your joy, you can serve God better and more, and you don't come to succumb to all the nonsense that goes on. And sometimes I just get bombarded with a lot of the stuff that's going on. I'm going, okay, I know that's going on. If I can't do anything about it, I can at least pray about it and let God deal with it, because I don't know how to deal with that. I will deal with what I can deal with, because we don't all know everything. We don't all have the answers. We aren't all capable of dealing with a lot of the stuff that's going on. But prayer is pretty powerful.
It is, and it helps us focus on the source of our joy, or the source of our creation, the source of the one who knows everything about all there is to know. Because if you listen to the news, they capitalize on bad news.
Yeah, there's nothing joyful about the news at all.
And sometimes if they talk about good news, it almost sounds as though they're trying to make everybody jealous instead of giving them the example that, oh my gosh, this person did this. Isn't this wonderful? Wouldn't it be wonderful if we could all do this? Let's all try and do this. And just aim higher instead of giving up and feeling hopeless. And one of the biggest consequences that people are suffering from is the idea that they're not enough.
Yeah. What
And
to
why
God
should we
be?
be enough when we have God? I mean, God is our enoughness. I mean, if we hook onto Him, He makes everything possible that's important.
Yes.
And then we don't have to worry about
And
it.
that's the key, isn't it? Because some people think, what we think's important, God might say, no, that's actually not that important. Look, our health is our greatest wealth, isn't it?
It is,
And
absolutely.
what we do here at Bronie's desk is try and help people have alternatives to pharmaceutical drugs and other things, artificial things out there, and get back to what God created. He gave us everything we needed, and He gave us a body that can heal itself. We just have to
Absolutely.
give it
Yeah.
what we're supposed
Yeah.
to give it, not artificial stuff, but real
Real stuff.
things, the minerals, the nutrients, and the vitamins and the fatty acids, and we can reverse most things.
Yeah. It's interesting how my parents were both pharmacists from Bulgaria and they came to this country. And I was born over there, but then I had five sisters and brothers that were born in this country of America. And my parents were so focused on health because they figured if we lost our health, we'd lose everything. They didn't care that they lost everything in Bulgaria because the communists came in and took over my dad's business and they just left with the clothes on their back, and that was plenty. They didn't need anything else. But my parents would always say, my mom would say, if you don't take care of your health, nobody else will, right?
That's exactly
And my
right.
dad, yeah, that's true. Okay. And then my dad would say, if you think you can buy your health back, forget it. When you lose your health, don't think you can buy it back. If you've lost it,
I mean, you
it's
look at the millionaires and billionaires out there that are sick and that are really sick, and no amount of money is going to
change it.
change
And
it.
they're miserable. They're
Yeah,
not happy.
and because my husband works in crisis counselling, they're
Yeah.
also the ones who are more suicidal.
Yeah, because they have lost their hope.
Hmm.
They don't know. They don't have to, they can just surrender to the power of knowing that God's in control and we can just live to glorify Him. That's all it takes,
Yeah,
you know?
they forgot to keep their joy.
Yeah,
They sacrificed everything to get to the wealth that they have and lost their joy along the way. Some of them lost their families along the way
absolutely.
because
Yeah,
of
it's really
greed.
sad. Yeah, when I was in pharmacy school, we were very close to like 2 blocks away from the big drug abuse psychedelic Haight Ashbury. I don't know if you've ever heard of them, but it was the corner in San Francisco, not too far away, where people were using drugs on the street. And the psychedelic era and all that LSD had to offer was a big deal. And so we were trying to go down there and talk to them about how those type of drugs have a very short-lived offering. It's not going to sustain and make you happy for the rest of your life. It's not going to allow you to grow into anything vital. And one of the classmates that was in the class behind me, no, they were in a class ahead of me. I was there for 4 years. And so in my first year, one of the guys, and he was a real brilliant, he knew everything. I don't know if he was on speed all the time because he could remember everything the first time he listened to it. But he was so, 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 so smart, but he wasn't smart enough to stay alive. He committed suicide.
Mm.
He just figured, well, I learned my pharmacology, and that was his suicide note. He used his pharmacology knowledge to kill himself.
Oh, that's sad.
Very sad because he was so smart and he had so much to offer and he had such a utility, but he had a poor outlook on
Yeah,
creating his joy. He didn't know how to create his joy with all the brains that he had inside. So there's a consequence there sometimes that's hard to deal with, and it's very sad to see them waste that resource.
exactly. And it's sort of, how many of us would wish that we had a brain that would remember everything the first time you see it, read it, and you know, I have a cousin like that, but he's pretty down to earth. And actually, it was his grandmother that passed away, that my auntie, my great auntie, and he was a lawyer and has now gone off to be a minister.
Well, there you go. That's one of the most healing things I believe we can do is to have that understanding of where we came from and where we're going and who's in charge.
And it's not me. God's in charge.
Well, it's a lot easier that way. My sister-in-law that lives up in Oregon with my brother, every time I say, "Oh, you did such a great job on this dinner," or "Oh, that dress you made looks so beautiful. Oh, the garden looks wonderful," she always says, "Glory to God."
Yeah. All right. Well, we've sort of gone a little over time, so we should probably end it there. And we could chat all day, I know. But
Well, we did get started a little bit later, but that's okay. Thank you. You're in charge. I'm ready to go when you are.
I don't want to drive everyone away, but you know, and if we talk about everything all at once, then there's nothing to talk about next month.
Well, definitely. We'll think of something good for next month. Do you have any
We
special
will.
requests?
Well, other parts
That
of
was
joy.
very interesting. That was very interesting. Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you, Yvonne.
Thank you, Yvonne.
Yeah.
Did you have any questions?
No, I just found it very interesting.
Even me going off on my little tangents. Harry, do you have any questions? Sometimes Harry has a struggle to unmute where he is. He's just sitting quietly in the background, and he'll probably send me a message later. All right. Well, if there's nothing more, yes, he just says thank you.
Okay. Well, beautiful. Have a great evening and enjoy the rest of your day. It's not evening for you.
No, it's just lunchtime. You ask Yvonne. We're going to Yvonne's for lunch, right?
Oh, okay. Thanks, Yvonne.
All right. We're not really.
Take care. Good seeing you all.
All right, so it's asking nicely here in Bronie's world to stay safe, stay informed, be empowered, but do not live in fear, my friends. And look for the joy in everything. You know, the world's crazy out there, but to have a healthy mix in 26, we need to find our joy. And we've had a wonderful time today talking about that. And now we will all be powerful, beautiful, brilliant, and most definitely very brave. And we're going to go down to Yvonne's for lunch. God bless you all. Catch you again tomorrow here in Bronie's world. Love you all.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Bye.
Bye. I'm trying to find them.
Don't forget to like